here we are with the first of our logs for Encounter, looking at Galatians and Ephesians this term. So hopefully you've managed to have a quick look at it. It's Galatians Chapter 1 we're going to start with. But let's have a little bit of understanding about where this is coming from. So Galatia is an area, and there are loads of churches and loads of cities and towns in that place. So when Paul is writing to Galatia, he's actually writing to loads of churches. So it's not just a church and the one where you think, oh, that church has got loads of problems, having to sort them out. It's actually loads of different things. So there's ongoing issues across this area, which is why he's got loads of stuff which we're going to look at now. So let's start chapter 1, verse 1. Paul starts with, he's an apostle, sent not from men nor by man, but by Jesus Christ and God the Father, who raised him from the dead, and all the other brothers with me. So this bit is literally just saying, this is who I am, you know who I am, and therefore you can know that what I'm saying is true and it is trustworthy. People complained about Paul that he wasn't a real apostle because he wasn't there with Jesus at the same time. And actually he talks about this further on. So in verse 13 he then says, you know what it was like when I was a Jew and how I used to persecute these people who call themselves the followers of the way, which is Christians, and I persecuted them. And he said actually he turned away from that. And he was called by God's grace into knowing Jesus. And so he's kind of confirming to the readers of this letter that this is actually not about me, it's about what Jesus has done and what Jesus is saying. So he says this grace and peace, and he talks about a few different things. And the bit which I wanted to focus on really was the fact that he says, I'm really astonished that you're so quick to move away from the gospel that you heard and the one that you sacrificed your life for. And this is from verse 6 onwards. And in verse 10 he then goes, am I now trying to win the approval of men or of God? Or am I trying to please men? If I was still trying to please men, I would not be a servant of Christ. And that, I think, is the real essential thing for us to think about as well. There's loads that we can get out from this chapter, but for this one thing I want you to think about is that actually what are you doing in your life? Are you trying to please men or are you trying to please God? What is it that your focus is? Have we so quickly deserted that gospel which we heard when we heard about Jesus dying for our sins and being raised to life again so we could have a relationship with God? Do we constantly just go, actually, do you know what? I'm turning away from that again and I'm following something else. I'm not focused on what God is actually asking me to do. And I think it's really easy, especially in our culture and with the world around us, to really lose sight of what God is asking of us. And so as we could find ourselves in this position where Paul could say the same thing to us, I'm astonished by the way you're so quick to turn your back on Jesus. So for you this week, my challenge is to think about actually, where do you turn away from Jesus? Are there parts in your life which you said, you know what, that's a no-go for you, Jesus, because I'm more interested in what I want to do than what you want me to do in this area? And also to think about who you're trying to please. It's really easy for us to think, actually, we want to please the people around us, to make our life easier, to feel like we've got friends, to feel that we're accepted, to feel that we're loved. But those things, ultimately, we can't gain from anyone else except for God. So this week, who are you trying to please? And are you quick to turn away from that gospel that he's given to you and that promise that you can be in relationship with him? So Galatians chapter 1, it's a great start to this term, and next week we'll be on to Galatians chapter 2. Hope you enjoyed it.